Hello, sports fans. It's the beginning of another week. And what does that mean? Well, it's probably Monday where you guys are. It is Athletics Chat, your favorite program of the week. And the charming gentleman in the blue sweater, that's Stuart Weir. Stuart's been on a staycation for about 14 days, and we hope he's refreshed. And he watched that golf tournament. It was in Wisconsin. Apparently, the European players lost, and I'm terribly sorry about that.
We came second.
You came second.
Silver
That's
medal.
good. That's good. And some Americans know what golf is. So this is Athletics Chat 69. Stuart's in Oxford, England, the intellectual capital of the world. I'm in San Jose, California, formerly the prune capital, now Silicon Valley. And we've got some topics to discuss today. So let's just kind of get on with them. So UKA, the governing body of British athletics, has been in the news. Talk to us about their new fearless leader.
Well, we have a new chairman because we thought about time we had one because, we've only had, let's go back to 2017 when Ed Warner came to the end of his 10-year stint as chairman. And he was generally well respected and thought to have done a good job. And since then, we've had Richard Barker, whom I liked, but sadly he fell out with people, couldn't get a consensus. Then there was Chris Clark, and he then said he didn't realize how much work was involved in it, so he resigned. Then Nick Coward, who had been the interim CEO, became the interim chair.
Wow.
So they have come and gone, but now they have appointed Ian Beattie. And I think he really is good news because Ian Beattie has got all sorts of things in his favor. First of all, he's a man from the sport. He has run 100 marathons.
Wow. And
I've sent you a piece with a picture of him ankle deep in mud running a cross-country race.
Gotta respect that.
You got to respect that. And this is the chairman. He's a chartered accountant by background. He's currently CEO of a law firm. He has been the chair of Scottish Athletics.
Okay.
And he has been involved in 5 different local athletics clubs.
Wow.
So he has the credibility of being a chartered accountant, being a CEO. He understands governance because he's been chair of Scottish Athletics. But he's somebody who actually runs. He's run 100 marathons.
Yeah.
We get great enthusiasm because one of the criticisms of the current management is that Jo Coates, for all her gifts, is not from the sport of athletics.
Sure.
And she brought in, as performance director, Sarah Symington, again, a person with a great resume, but she's worked in netball, triathlon, skateboarding, cycling, but not from athletics. And of course, there's such a thing as transferable skills, but some of us are naive enough to think that actually, if you are an athletics person, you understand the sport a little bit better. And so that was what Ian brings, as well as all his expertise at high level and sharp cookie and all that. But the fact that he is a man of the sport, I think, will excite a lot of people.
Good. Now, wasn't Brendan Foster one of the candidates for that position? Or was it just a rumor?
All sorts of rumors. I don't think they ever released the number. People were invited to apply, and the board then did some interviews, although it was mainly, I gather, one of the external members who was the chair of that procedure. So, Foster would have an awful lot to offer. He is, shall we say, a senior person.
Yes.
age-wise. So I think that might have been against him.
Okay.
Also, I don't know. I mean, I would guess, just looking at his photograph, that BT is about 50.
Okay.
So a nice age, enough experience, but yet years ahead of him. I haven't heard, I certainly had not heard any strong rumors as to who was going to be appointed. But I mean, anybody I've spoken to, there's been great enthusiasm for BT because of his involvement in the sport, from being chair of Scottish Athletics to organising a race every year to participating. So, I mean, somebody sent me an email today. Let's hope he's allowed to do his job without interference.
No,
that's an interesting comment.
Yeah, no, I think that is a. I have carefully observed what's going on in UK and British athletics, and with your help, and I compare and contrast them to USA Track and Field, and I think while Joe Coates and her team are well-meaning, there have been some miscues. And recently, and one I wanted to ask you about, and I didn't even give you any notice on this, and my apologies, but something last week about athletes being upset about coaches' contracts not being renewed. Do you know anything on that?
I have not spoken to any of the coaches concerned, but what I have heard, that a number of coaches who earn their living partly by being paid by the central body have had their hours cut.
Because one of the pictures they put was Andy Young with Gemma. Was Andy cut back? Okay. I
have heard, I mean, I haven't spoken to Andy, but I have heard that as well. See, nothing has officially been said. So therefore, it's speculation. Perhaps we'll come back to this in a couple of weeks when I've had a chance to find out a bit more. But yeah, I mean, it does seem utter foolishness to be cutting. Because another one, again, this I just stress that this is hearsay. I haven't verified it. Also, I have heard that Scott Simpson is one of the ones who's cut. Scott Simpson, whose two athletes, Holly Bradshaw, got a bronze medal in Tokyo, and Harry Koppel, I finished at 8th in the men's pole vault. You know, but I think that's a pretty good week's work for a coach myself.
I think so too. And if you ever considered what he does globally, I mean, he set a record with RunBlogRun. We had, let's see, for 3 consecutive months, those pieces that you did about the pole vault and coaching, they were our biggest. I mean, they got 30 to 40,000 retweets, and that just doesn't happen, you know. And the combo of the, I hope we do more combo pieces with the video there, and he was wonderful, and the athletes were well. That group of athletes is just so. The women vaulters are so wonderful, but it's let's get back to UKA again. There was also something in the news that Seb Coe is on the board of a company now that's trying to bid to take over the lottery. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know the facts about that, but I mean, there have been. Coe has been a member of Parliament, and I think he's quite astute at knowing what he's allowed to do, because I don't know how it works in your country, but in ours, if you're a member of Parliament, you must declare any income you get from any source so that everyone knows about it. So I would have thought that Coe is clean on that.
Yeah, no suggestion of impropriety. It was, and he was quoted. Well, help me for a second, just for our American readers. So that there's a lottery that's used in the UK that helps fund your Olympic sports. What is that actually called?
It's called the National Lottery.
Okay.
And we have, that's probably been going for about 25, 30 years. And it's run, it's called the National Lottery. It's run by a private company on behalf of the government. And the commitment from the start is that a certain percentage of the revenue would go to what's called good causes. And not-for-profit organizations can apply for grants. I mean, I live in a small village of 1,000 people, and our village soccer team got $50,000 to improve our facilities. So it's working at grassroots as well, but then some of it goes into funding elite performance through a body called UK Sport, which gets a certain large sum of money from the government, and it decides how to allocate that by setting medal targets for each sport. For example, if they have set a medal target for track and field and a medal target for swimming, if swimming at the Olympics were to exceed their medal target and track and field were to fall below it, then for the next Olympic cycle, the money going to swimming would increase and the money going to track and field would drop. So that is the way. So the lottery people have no say in who gets it. That is the government decides which causes and how that will be allocated. But yes, I mean, I think that is a very significant, well, it is the main way in which the world-class program, as we call it in track and field, is funded. But I thought you would ask me a different question about SEPCO, okay, because a writer called Matt Lawton, who writes for the Times, and who is someone who's, I would compare him in a way to Sean Ingle, that he's quite investigative and looking for the stories that people don't want to come out.
Yeah.
And he wrote that in Zurich, after the meet had finished, a group of British athletes and coaches had sat down, probably over dinner, with SEPCO, and begged him to intervene because of the mess British athletics was in.
Yes, now, I heard about that one. That was the next question. I
was in Zurich. I didn't see it happening, so I was staying in a hotel, but I wasn't in the dining room at the time, so I don't know anything about it. Matt Lawton wasn't even in Zurich, so he's obviously got sources.
Yeah.
How many coaches, how many athletes? But certainly I can tell you that one senior coach, whom I cannot name, did say to me, I fear the way we're going, the current management will have ruined the sport in 5 years. So there are certainly issues of confidence by coaches in the way the sport is being managed. And the idea of reducing the contracts of our successful elite coaches does seem very strange to me.
I recall in 2018, over an adult beverage, an informed source high up in the sport shared with me a gathering with Alan Pascoe, who had pretty much saved British athletics back in about 2002, 2003 by helping with funding. At the time, Pascoe, Ridgen, and Stewart Ian Stewart all work together. And Seb and had talked to Alan about getting involved in the sport again. And it was made clear that until the past management got out, which they did, and they went to the Eugene World Championships, they wouldn't get involved. And we've watched things go from wonderful to challenging. I mean, I think 2017 may have been the best World Championships we've ever seen. 2012 Olympics was one of the best I'd ever been to. And I had been toying with my head saying, well, why don't we just do the Worlds in London all the time and the Olympics in Athens and move the winter around and you know, smart economic stuff, right? And I recall UK athletics in the 209s, 210s as things were going from mediocre to a little better and how much hard work had been done. And I'm dumbfounded. But I also am seeing some of this in the US right now. Last week, USATF lost two of their key communications people. And let me make sure I get the names right because I don't want to. Ashley Mitchell, who was the communications director, and Josh Gurnick, they were.
Yes.
You had this wonderful team at British Athletics of 5 people that you and I dearly loved, and they were pushed out a few years ago, and they were the best team in any federation in athletics. And I put USATF with Josh and Ashley number 2, and Josh announced last Wednesday that he was leaving, and then Ashley announced that she was going on Friday, and she's going for her master's, and Josh is kind of looking for stuff. And I'm just kind of going, the only way we got any communication out of USATF pretty much was with those two. And what's going to happen now? And, you know, we're less than a year away from World Championships in Eugene, Oregon. And that group, it's like a group of Buddhist monks. I think they've taken a vow of silence. There's very little promotion. And recently, I was told by a source that they're really promoting in Oregon because they can't figure out what to do about the pandemic. They are worried about all the travel stuff. And here you've got Phil Knight and his wife dropped $282 million on a stadium that is glorious, but if it's half full next year, there will be hell to pay. And I'm just kind of going, how many times can our sport afford to put its foot in its mouth? Because over the last 2 years, grassroots appreciation of our sport, Stuart, I mean, our numbers are up. We're doing stuff where I counted that you and I had covered over 100 events in the last year remotely. And between the two of us, I think we've been to 10 events live in the last year. We didn't get to go to events for a year and a half. And but people really love it. They really appreciate it. And if our modest group is doing that, what are others, you know? And I seem to recall a comment by Jackie Brock Doyle from World Athletics that World Athletics numbers are through the roof, you know, during the champs. So it tells me that people are interested, but how many screw-ups can happen? And you've got, you know, there's some young athletes coming up, and hell, just look at the women's 800 between, you know, Keely Hodgkinson and Gemma and Laura, and then, you know, what the Williams sisters, Jody and Hannah, have done. You know, there's it's delightful. And you've got a great group. So it breaks my heart to see some of this stuff.
But just going back to what you said about 2012 and 2017,
Hmm.
Now, the last London anniversary games was 2019,
Right.
which was Friday night and Saturday.
Yeah.
2020, nothing took place.
Mhm.
Okay, you can blame the pandemic, but equally, some other people in other countries managed to run events. 2021, we had the initial announcement that Friday, Saturday had gone. It was going to be a Tuesday evening for the anniversary games. And then it was moved to Gateshead.
Yeah.
And again, people are saying, London is the capital. London is one of the major cities in the world.
Mhm.
And if you're not having anything in London to showcase your sport, what's going on? And then already there is speculation as to whether there will be an anniversary games next year. Because if you look in the Diamond League website, you'll find that quite a number of them already have the date for
Yeah.
next year up. And there's nothing for London. And nothing has been said. So again, I wouldn't put my house on you and me being at the anniversary games next year.
Yeah. Well, we go back to 2018 in the cluster that it was that year, where they did that athletics, the world British athletics got involved in the World Cup. But the biggest problem was, from my sources, they didn't listen to the people who they spent an extra 1.5 million on travel because they didn't listen. What I was always fascinated with is in going to the anniversary games, going to Diamond Leagues in the UK, was how the people who managed it, were able to manage the rooms, manage the meals. It was finely tuned. I mean, as a media person, I would find a way I would pay for a hotel room. I would sometimes be able to go through the travel group and get meals, and it was always a great deal. It was about 150 to 200 US a night, but still it included 3 meals, and it worked great for us. And I was always amazed at how well things were organized. And then it went south. And it went south really quick. And those people are out of your sport in the UK. There, a couple of them are dealing with Eugene, but now you've got people who I don't know if you guys even put meets on anymore. I mean, they got rid of Cherry Alexander. I mean, I know she left, but my God, between first there was Ian, then there was Cherry, then there was that whole team. Cherry had put a team together that really did their stuff. And if if you want to appreciate a well-run track meet like Weltklasse in Zurich, like the Van Damme in Brussels, like Oslo or Stockholm, just become a little house mouse and follow the producers around. I mean, when I first started going to meets in 05, 06, Ian Stewart walked me around to see that he had 3 producers in the Crystal Palace, that they had, how they ran things, their attention to detail, how they promoted things. And I was kind of going, God, I never would appreciate how they had a BBC producer, and then they had a in-house producer. Then they had something for the global, producer. And I'm just kind of going, that attention to detail and the group of professionals. And then at the time you had Pasco and Ridgeon and Stewart with the sponsorship stuff, and you guys are the best funded. I mean, your federation was bringing in 5 times what USA Track and Field, and 3 times what the Italian Federation was getting. And the Italians, obviously do their stuff well. And so I thought, well, gosh, when the money comes in, USA Track and Field, they got to 43 million, shouldn't be a problem. I have no clue what they do, and it's
Yeah.
we look at the athletes in the US, we look at the athletes in the UK, and we're both very fond of them, and we write about athletes all over the world, and there's no excuse for some of this stuff. The anniversary games, if the anniversary games is done right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it was done right on a Friday and Saturday, promoted, even in a pandemic, we could get 50,000 people a day. I mean, it rocked.
Yeah.
Isn't that what happened? I mean, the biggest problem with the last time it happened in 18 was they did 2 meets a week apart and totally emasculated the
except that they got 25,000 in each session of those, which is an awful lot more than most diamond leagues around the world get.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's just like
you had. I think it was 75,000 people, or there was 100,000 tickets sold over the 2 weekends.
Wow.
So it's the same problem that Rome has. That you have this enormous stadium, a stadium which holds 60,000, then 30,000 looks empty. But actually 30,000 compared to what they get in Stockholm, I would say Monaco, Rome even, it's a pretty good crowd.
Yeah, so
it's a difficult one, but but at the moment the concern that I have is that we don't know yet if there's going to be an anniversary games next year, and if there isn't, that will mean if there's one in 2023, that will be 4 years between 2 London Diamond Leagues.
Yeah.
And also there's the issue, as I understand it, that BBC has not renewed the TV contract. And for example, the national championships was only available on YouTube, etc.
Yeah.
So there are things going on at the moment that people are concerned about.
And rightly so. We are now in the marathon season.
Yes.
And we had the Vienna Marathon on the 13th of September, and that seemed to go well. There was a little controversy there where a person won the race, but they were running in an illegal running shoe, and so they didn't win the race. So that got changed. And then yesterday, the 26th of September, there was the Berlin Marathon, and it was a guy, Adole, who had first run Berlin in 17, and battled, who's battled not only Eliud Kipchoge and lost, but this time, for a second time, he battled Kenenisa Bekele, and Bekele came in third. And the race was, they were faster than world record pace up till about 30K, and then the wheels came off, and it was a warm day, and while it was a good race, I asked one of my astute commentators to tell me what their first thoughts were, and they said, well, they're obviously doing drug testing again at Berlin, or doing drug testing, and that's what's slowing stuff down. And then I got another note today that said that watch for the marathon times to slow down over the next couple of years because we just don't have the talent, and the drug testing is coming back. So I went and looked at the drug testing things and noticed that during the pandemic, WADA and USADA were down over 50%, both about 75% in the amount of people they're drug testing. And so I wonder out loud how much really was how fast the shoes were, And was it more about people not having to worry about being tested that poses a concern? And it's something that we're going to have to discuss in the future. I don't have any answers for it, but I know that right now we've got Berlin was a lovely race. They had 25,000 people. They had very good performances on the men and women's side, just not records. And a very compelling men's race and a compelling women's race. And then this coming week, we have the London Marathon, one of our favorites. But you're going to watch it from home, and I'm going to watch it from home.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like I was thinking about flying over, but again, it's one, airline tickets are a bit much. Two, the protocols are ever changing, and I don't know what will happen when I come back. And then the following week is Chicago on the 10th, Boston on the 11th. And then we've got New York at the end of the month. No Frankfurt this year. And we just heard on Friday in the U.S. that the Marine Corps Marathon became virtual, and I was chatting with a couple of the sponsors, and they all understand it. There is concern, So any comments on this fall marathon season?
Yeah, well, the fact that they're all close together means that athletes really have to pick and choose. I mean, if you had done London in April in previous years, then you could still do a fall marathon. But with them just one after another, and again, it's quite soon after the Olympics.
Yeah.
So when I look down the elite lists for London, there's an awful lot of names among the elite runners that aren't very familiar to me. I mean, in the women's, we've got Bridget Kosgei, the world record holder, who is running. I mean, she looks probably a favorite, if I could say that. But two people I'm intrigued to see. There's Charlie Purdue.
Oh, yeah.
Who was very unlucky not to be selected for Tokyo. Controversial, really, and to see what she can do. And also, Elsie Wellings, the Australian 10,000 runner.
Yes.
Who retired from the track, I think, after, I'm just trying to think whether it was after Rio or did she run in the Commonwealth. But she is doing her debut marathon.
Wow. Oh, that should be fun.
Yeah. But among the men, it's certainly not as strong as it was last year by any means.
Yeah.
And we don't, I mean, Jonathan Miller is probably the best known British runner.
Sure.
In that he's a 210 man. But we haven't got any of the people who were those who were selected for Tokyo are not doing a September marathon and October marathon just. So, but I mean, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm that there is a proper London marathon with an elite field and with the club runners as well.
Yeah. What do you does this have any, I mean, in the past, and I know David Bedford has been retired for a few years from the race, and Hugh does a lovely job in being the race director. Mr. Bedford was a bit more colorful, and he seemed to be able to orchestrate fields pretty well. Is this a function of the pandemic? Is this a function of London watching its dollars? What are you hearing?
I don't know. I don't know.
That is a wonderfully honest statement. I like that.
I mean, I think you can speculate that the fact that previously, when London was in April, there were not many comparable marathons happening. There were less happening at the same time as there are this year. So people have the choice. I don't know what the funding is. I would have thought that their funding is. I'd be surprised if funding is a problem because I mean they have a global sponsor in Virgin, and they've got TV coverage for about 6 hours, prime time, on terrestrial channels. You know, not satellite or pay-per-view or anything. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really asked anyone. I don't know whether the organisers are disappointed with the field. I mean, I think a lot of people are excited that it's going ahead in a recognisable format because last year you'll recall that in St James's Park we ran laps. I mean, interestingly, wheelchair people are able to repeat, and I know that Brent Lakatos, who was third in Berlin, is doing London, and he has not ruled out doing one or two of the American ones.
Wow.
So that, I mean, he actually said to me when it was announced that he quite fancied it because I mean, he does a normal job, and he said, you know, I can take 2 weeks holiday from work and possibly do 4 marathons.
Wow. That's pretty dang amazing. I you know, and watching them do that, I remember the McFadden and the American wheelchair racer, and how many races she did, and how many some of the others did too. You know, and I've been wondering about our dear friend Ken Anissa, who took third in lovely Berlin, and if he's going to come back and actually run New York, you know.
I actually once asked Tatiana McFadden at a championship, how on earth do you manage to do the 5,000, the 15, the 8, the 4, the 2? And she just looked at me and said, "You should see what I do in training."
Yeah, I mean, they're really tough. I mean, she had some health issues and things like that, but I think that she's obviously done fabulous. Let me just, I had a couple other notes on here, and I just want to make sure that we're good. What is, so you'll cover the London remotely. I'll be watching it from over here. And we'll keep some things going. And it should be a lot of fun. But Stuart, thank you again for this was week 69 of our athletics chat. We've actually been doing it. You put up with me for over a year and a third, my friend. And you know, it's most appreciated. I have a lot of fun with our chats. I'm glad you got a little vacation. I hope there was some golf last week besides watching it on TV.
I was there for 7 days, but only managed to play 5 times.
Oh gosh, Stuart. Oh, my heart stays open for you, man. You know, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, my friend. You have a good week. I'll be posting your stories later today. This is Larry Eder and Stuart Weir. We do athletics chat once a week, your favorite bit of programming. Thanks to Mike Deering, who puts up with mostly my tantrums and the charm of Stuart on a almost daily basis. And thank you to our charming viewers and readers and your comments and thoughts. Email us at runblogrun@gmail.com and tell us if you have an idea, if you think we've gone too far, if you don't think we've gone far enough, or you can tweet us too, you know, at RunBlogRun. And you know the drill, but stay safe, and we'll see you in another week. Well, hello, sports fans. Greetings from around the world. It's your favorite show, Athletics Chat. This is Athletics Chat number 69. Our friend Stuart Weir, who lives in the intellectual capital of the world, Oxford, England, is back from a staycation. He got to play golf 5 days out of 7, which I think sounds pretty good. Although he was bemoaning the fact that Team Europe lost to Team USA in that little golf soiree this last weekend in my home state, Wisconsin. And I'm sad. I shed a tear, but c'est la vie. So our topics this week, Ian Beattie, the new leader at UK Athletics. Stuart has high praise for him. Guys run 100 marathons. There's some pictures in the piece that we're doing on him of him running through knee-deep mud. So the guy's a real runner, and he is a certified accountant and is a CEO of a law firm. So he knows the business end of it, but he has the love for the sport too. And we wish him the best in trying to get UKA straightened out, because they're recently, per Matt Lawton with The Guardian, there was a gathering with Lord Coe and British athletes and coaches in Zurich, where they begged Seb to get involved and help clean up some of the cluster that's happening in the UK. One coach was quoted as telling Stuart, we are our European correspondent, that in the next 5 years, UK athletics could really be a mess. And federations are like that. They go up and down. It's sad for me because I've watched since 2006 the British athletics on this amazing rise in 2012, 2017, but the writing was on the wall by 2017. And while the people that pushed Alan Pascoe and his team out, and I believe much of the total absolute screw-ups in British athletics was because leadership thought that they could save a 15% commission and lost millions of pounds. They shouldn't be allowed to run a fishing lodge, but they are. They're running a world championship right now, and the ramifications for British athletics are huge. At least British athletics seems to be paddling. I'm not sure what's going on with USA Track and Field because it's pretty quiet. Josh Gurnick and Ashley Mitchell left last week. They were the communications department under Susan Hazard. Wonderful people. The predecessor to Susan Hazard was Jill M. Gear, who was there for a long, long time. Jill was a favorite, and while I didn't agree with Jill all the time, many times we got into it a little bit, Jill at least communicated with us, and she's now taken over, I think, the toughest job in the sport. She's going to deal with USA Gymnastics. My God, talk about going from hellfire to nuclear inferno. But if anybody can do it, Jill can. And kudos to Jill, and I wish her the very best. Right now, the nature of sport and the nature of running are in a challenge. There is going to be a huge challenge this year in getting running shoes because of there was some articles over the weekend about how Vietnam has slowed down and stopped production of running shoes. Many of the brands are going to be affected. Nike announced it on Friday in the Times of India, and that they could be bet down as much as 9%. And so I think people are going to be hoarding shoes and all that kind of happy stuff. Running has had this amazing upswing during the pandemic. And you've got all these marathons this fall, which I think is a bit of craziness, but I also understand if the marathons don't do it, some of the events could never happen again. Marine Corps Marathon is a virtual, but everything else from Vienna to Berlin, which just happened, to London, to Chicago, to New York, to Boston, are happening in a very short period of time. I'm hoping to go to 2 or 3, but it's going to be a challenge. We've covered 100 events over the last year, Stuart and I, remotely, and with the help of Justin Legat too, and probably about 15 live. It used to be we do 35 or 40 live and 50 or 60 remote. That nice combination people seem to really like. But things are changing right now. It's a little crazy. I ask everybody to stay patient, get your runs and walks in, stay safe, wear the mask indoors, and we'll get the stuff figured out. But this is Athletics Chat 69, the epilogue, where Larry just talks to himself. Thanks to Mike Deering, our production manager. Thanks to Stuart Weir, our European correspondent. And thanks to you, our viewers and readers. Please pass it on. Get other people to watch it. Because the more eyeballs, I can, have a extra Starbucks a day. Anyway, stay safe. Peace out. Talk to you soon.